So thank you all for coming. Really appreciate you coming out. There's going to be a bunch in this talk that kind of echoes the first, and maybe I can elaborate some of those points. So a little bit about myself. So I grew up in an artist household. Both my parents are artists. Went to school for biophysics, did a kind of stint in a number of research labs. Ended up moving to New York right when Occupy Wall Street was happening, so that had a big kind of personal impact on me. And right around that time, in order to kind of stay involved in the arts, I started a artist magazine. Learned a lot about art publishing, conceptual art, and kind of being in New York at that time, I was interested in kind of new institutions, found crypto, and very kind of immediately recognized it as like a new media form, and so just got very curious about it, and eventually got pulled into the industry. And now I do protocol design, product strategy, so I actually work on building chains, and I think from a kind of technical level, from a protocol design level, what are they, what can they be? And then I also do some work with an organization called Other Internet, which thinks about crypto more on this kind of, from this cultural research angle. So more recently, we've been doing a bunch of kind of analysis on blockchains as cultural institutions, social institutions. So my claim for this talk is that a blockchain is an artwork. And interesting, this is not me. This is kind of nice. Okay. This is a nice prelude to, it builds it up. Yeah, so this is kind of an interesting mashup of like two strands of research that have been going on for quite a while. I gave a talk, my first crypto art talk was at the MIT Media Lab, and I had basically this slide on here. I was talking about some kind of philosophical research, like experimental research that I'd been looking at. And so here's the setup. Thought experiment. You go to visit the Louvre, and you want to see the Mona Lisa. You've never seen it before. And you arrive just as the Mona Lisa is about to close, and the security guard tells you that the Mona Lisa has been completely incinerated. And you only have enough time to make it to one wing of the Louvre. So you can either go to a pile of ashes on one side, which is where the Mona Lisa used to be, or on the exact opposite end, there's a perfect replica of the Mona Lisa. Not even experts can distinguish between the two. You only have time to visit one wing. Which do you visit? And 80% of the respondents in this survey said that they would go to visit the ashes of the Mona Lisa. And what was kind of understood from this philosophical thought experiment is that basically the thing kind of drawing you to the pile of ashes is this kind of emotional connection to to the artist's hand. This is typically what we kind of understand as the aura of the artwork. So this sense of wonder and kind of historical weight is significant in what we understand to be the artwork. So from this standpoint, we can understand art as a social institution. It is a way to kind of instrumentalize emotion and induce behavior. So This diagram from Stephen Willits kind of depicts the artwork as this intermediating object between artist and audience. And basically the artist kind of uses this artwork as a tool in order to induce some kind of behavior and regulate social behavior in some way. And so this is kind of the other strand of research that I've been looking at is like what makes a blockchain, and blockchains are also social institutions. So I spent 2 years thinking about this problem with my co-authors on this article, Laura and Toby. And basically we use this legal framework to think about blockchains from Lawrence Lessig. Basically, it's we kind of understand blockchains as also regulating behavior through markets, architecture, and norms in the absence of law. So law is this other kind of meta regulatory force. So we had this whole we had basically 100 pages of additional writing and research that were removed, and a lot of that was less about kind of how a blockchain regulates and more about how a blockchain comes to be and what it is ontologically. So this, I'm just kind of pulling from some of this additional research that I'm now trying to synthesize a little bit because it's quite interesting. So in order to kind of understand what a blockchain is or how it comes to be, there's all these kind of metaphors mapped onto it, but for better or worse, the state or this kind of sovereign entity actually works quite well in understanding the mechanics of how a blockchain comes to be. So Hobbes basically described the formation of a state, or the Leviathan, the body politic, as this process of legitimation. It's people coming together and ceremonially giving up freedoms in order to be recognized as part of this community. And that community, that Leviathan, confers them rights. So you give up rights in order to kind of get rights in return. And the instantiation of blockchain follows the same pattern. You have this process of legitimation and kind of ceremonial recognition in order to create and kind of understand together that this blockchain is an object that we care about. So this is the so then the question is how does this come to be? How do we kind of engage in this ceremony together and in order to produce legitimacy? So legitimacy is the process by which people imbue something with political authority. Yeah, how does this come about? So basically it's through the creation of context and the use of a number of kind of instruments: charisma, participatory engagement, tradition, exhibition in public space, and speaking in some way and justifying the moral character of some kind of social milieu. And the kind of end result of this is the creation of consent among the members of a community. So this really speaks to what an artist does. The image here is from Artist Placement Group. Their kind of mantra that context is half the work is really resonates. So yeah, artists are masters of wielding exactly these tools: charisma, public exhibition, participatory engagement, the use of moral claims in order to establish tradition. This is the currency of artists. I did another talk recently where I was talking about Earth Day, and Earth Day was a kind of really interesting. It was the creation of a new holiday. It was supposed to be kind of secular holiday for the entire world. And on the first Earth Day, there were a number of these kind of artist engagements. And so here you see Robert Rauschenberg creating the first poster for Earth Day. And this is a way to kind of lend legitimacy, build credibility around this global ceremony. And now we have Earth Day every year. Of course, blockchains use the same currency of ceremony. So they have charismatic founder stories. They kind of justify their existence through moral claims, and they use participatory engagement, whether it's validation or running light clients or whatever it is, in order to kind of bring people into the fold and have them recognize this shared object. So the lore that you're generating here creates the context for public recognition and ultimately consent. So we as artists working in blockchain space, I think have a leg up in kind of understanding what a blockchain is and how it works, and kind of work back and forth between these different domains. So kind of reading some of these artworks in this context of the production of legitimacy, you can actually kind of understand the mechanics, how they work much better. So this is Ria Meyers' is art. It's basically a smart contract where anyone in the world can flip a switch and change the artwork from is art to is not art. And I also talked about this in this very first lecture that I did in 2016. And it's really nice to kind of like reread the piece today in this context and like really understand it kind of one layer deeper. So if we're kind of engaging a new participatory technology, permissionless access, permissionless rights, and we're kind of pointing to this mechanism of recognition. Is art. The smart contract is art. I can change it into art. So just by kind of combining those two instruments, you produce the artwork. So yeah, lastly, I've been kind of like looking more into Joseph Beuys's notion of social sculpture, and there's just something about the concept that really speaks to me. First of all, he kind of understood everyone as being an artist, and kind of every aspect of life can be approached in a creative way. So, and the way that he kind of justified this is that like an artist is not a maker of objects, but they're this kind of agent of change. They're an agent who's able to have an impact and transform society in some way. Beuys obviously was kind of involved in the. He's kind of disaffected from participating in World War II and understood political institutions as completely nonsensical, and I think we're kind of in a similar space right now where we kind of understand our political institutions as just completely illegitimate. So this is kind of the context in which we can now create our own social sculptures. So if a blockchain is a work of art, then what? So these are social sculptures with the radical potential to reimagine society. There's a lot that we can do with these objects. At the same time, the contemporary art world is very much in crisis and trying to kind of find relevance. So there's, I think a good reason for the art world or artists to engage blockchains as this kind of media with a lot of political potential. And yeah, just to close, like, should we not treat our own lives as works of art and live as agents with the capacity to create meaning and engage the world in our own terms? Thanks.